Welcome back, everyone, to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig. I got Jeff sitting across from me today. And today we're going to talk some auction draft strategies. So we've had some episodes already this year where we talked about different strategies. We did a couple mocks of different ways. We did studs and duds and zero RB. We've done all kinds of strategies. But today we just want to kind of condense it into one episode, talk about them all, and what we think is working for this year. Because honestly, every year it can be a little different where something might work last year, it won't work this year. So we'll bring them all up. First approach, people, I think it's probably like the most well-known name. It's studs and duds, kind of a thing. Basically, you go all in on a couple top end players and then have no money left over for the rest of your team. Some people like to do that. I think people like to do that maybe don't love auction as much as we do. They're just like, all right, let's get all these guys and then the rest, right? I don't love that approach. I don't think that's the way to go. I don't even think we need to take much time on it because unless you have anything different, I think studs and duds is just not the way to go.
I think with this year, I think the way that the pricing structure works out, like you can get maybe 3 guys and you have like no money left whatsoever, but more than likely you're probably getting 2 big names and then you're getting screwed on everything else. Yeah. So if it was a little more friendly to the wallet and you could get 3 and then still have wiggle room, there would be something to talk about, but I just don't, it hasn't worked out in any of the things we've tried.
Another approach people like to talk about is hero RB. That's been a more newer, I guess, draft strategy that people have talked about. It can be a mix of things, but it's typically you're going big for a running back. So this year it really only means to me, it's like McCaffrey, Eckler at this point. I don't really think anything really falls it because that's where you just go big for one of those guys and they're your hero, like they're your big thing. And price wise, those are probably the only 2 that truly fit into that this year. McCaffrey's up at like $58. This is just ESPN current live draft trends. I know they go probably higher. I mean, they're 57 and 55 between McCaffrey and Eckler, but in most drafts they're going to go in the 60s. Mm-hmm. So your approach is you're spending big on one of those guys, and then you're going to fill in the rest of your roster with a mixture. You're not going to go studs and duds. So you're not going to go do that and then get Chase or Jefferson, right? But you're going to fill it in with some guys. I don't love that either this year because I don't feel like Eckler and McCaffrey I want to spend big on. They're not like the sure thing where you're like, all right, got this guy. He's going to be the anchor for my team. Yes, they're great players, but I'm just not.
Well, we haven't had a situation the past few years where you got a lot of good production out of doing that, right? But you didn't get the guy that was going to win the league, right? Yep. Jonathan Taylor wasn't one of those guys before. Like Derrick Henry wasn't the guy before he blew up. You're always looking for the next one if you really want. Like Josh Jacobs, that was the guy that won a lot of leagues. Yep. And it wasn't. And if you would have paid anything you could to get him, but at the beginning of the year, you price it as well as you can, but that wasn't the guy that won it. It's very hard to predict who is going to be head and shoulders above the rest of the running backs, and we don't know who's going to be hurt. So if you go that route, and if you're wrong, it really stings.
It doesn't work a lot. If you base your whole team on this guy has to be the guy, I don't love it. I don't think I just think it's not what it is.
And I've always been a guy that likes to get 2 running backs because, let's be honest, it's a lot easier to fill in a wide receiver. But I typically, if you could get one of those guys and then you try to, go down and guess correctly, once again, I don't think this is the year for that approach.
No, I just don't either. So next strategy would be zero RB. You hear zero RB all the time. It seems to go in and out of, phases of people love zero RB and then they don't, and then they love it again and then they don't. I think zero RB can mean a lot of things to different people though. It depends on how some people really take zero RB to the extreme, right? I think there's levels of it. Zero RB can work for a certain level, but so it depends on what you're talking about. Is zero RB to you mean, all right, I'm going to really wait and I'm going to get Jefferson. Maybe I get the quarterback. I'm going to go get Mahomes. Maybe I spend on, maybe not Kelsey, but maybe it's Andrews. Maybe it's Kelsey, that kind of, you're spending on all that. And then it's like my running backs are now Ramondre Stevenson and Jahmyr Gibbs, Kenneth Walker. That's like more of the extreme zero RB. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think I'd go to that level though. Like, I don't think I'd want to wait and get my running backs that are in the mid, like that Ramondre Stevenson tier. I don't want. I like Ramondre Stevenson. I don't want him as my number one running back.
I don't hate it.
See, I'm not like totally against it.
Yeah,
but there's something. I think I want one better running back.
Yeah. So
but Stevenson and Walker, when you say that's probably not terrible.
Here's the issue with that. If you went off and you got Jefferson and Chase right away, you're already hamstringed as far as how much money you can spend. So you might end up with some of the guys you're talking about, and we would actually be like, oh, that can work. Yep. We would like that, right? If you got Jamar Gibbs, if you got Stevenson, there's a couple other guys down here that I think would be. I could make
Miles Sanders,
a handful of guys. I'm not
right. You're right.
Like Madison, Dobbins. Depending on what happens to Kamara, if he goes low in your draft, I feel like you can get 2-3 guys you can make it work on. But
you're right.
Every single one of those guys could get outpriced for what you have left, and then you might end up having Rachaad White as my number one, and then
that's where I don't want.
And you're like, and then you're screwed.
So I think that strategy puts me in a bind because I feel good about it if I get certain guys that I like. We talked about. If I get Stevenson, if I get Walker, if I get Sanders, if I had all three of those guys, and I guarantee you I'm getting all three of those, I think I'm okay. I feel decent about it. But I honestly, those specifically those three guys. So you're really putting yourself in a spot where you need those.
I named 5 names, and if I got 3 of them, and then you still like if you added depth with that, then yes. But also remember, on top of that, you also need to be able to go out and get like a Chase Jefferson. Like you need to be able to make up the difference by the wide receiver.
If you're getting those guys, it needs to be like a Jefferson.
Yeah.
It needs to be
once again, those guys could go for a ridiculous amount.
To me, a top quarterback. You need a top
right. So you
3.
You supplement, right? You say, okay, running back, I'm gonna figure out how to make it work and get solid production out of a stable of running backs. Now I have to have the leg up in the QB position. Wide receiver I have to decimate, and then tight end I would love to. I'm not
there.
I punt tight end.
Yeah. I still think I punt tight end.
Yeah, I just can't spend the extra money.
I'm talking me into this. Okay, I need a top 3 quarterback. I need Jefferson, and then I still want another. I want another receiver that's borderline top 10. I kind of would want Garrett Wilson.
Okay, I was going to say Garrett Wilson. I have a feeling his value is going to keep creeping up.
He's already $34 on live drafts right now.
I feel like him as my number 2, even though I absolutely love, and I can pocket that extra money. If I got Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, and then I feel like I can still find the other wide receiver in value.
Top 3 quarterback, Jefferson, Wilson, and then you go down to Ramondre Stevenson and below. That's possible.
Yeah, Stevenson, and once again, you can find value there.
So 0 RB could work.
Once again, but we're talking very, very specific. So, like if you didn't get Stevenson, say.
So that's I'm worried then.
Would you feel like who are the 3 guys under that you'd want? Miles Sanders.
Well, and even with we stay at the Stevenson for 1 minute.
Yeah.
I like him. I'm not like guaranteed.
But you know what I mean? Believe that he's a guaranteed top 20 or top 15.
Probably. So I guess if you like it better, you might like Najee better. I don't. It's probably not bad value, but. For me, I would need Ken Walker. I would need Miles Sanders. And I guess then, like a Madison, I guess he's cheap. He's not getting any love.
I don't know why, though. I feel like he's going to be. I feel like he's going to be very safe. Top 20 guy guaranteed.
I think I just handcuffed myself too much. I don't think I'd venture much from this strategy. It's not going to be like I'm venturing much. But I think I want like a Nick Chubb or Tony Pollard.
You would really have to figure out the value because you would have to figure out, okay, if I have to get Jefferson right away, find out what his value is. And then I have to get like one of these middle running back, like Stevenson right away. And if I can't get him, I have to know which way to go. It's so you would have to have strategy 1 and strategy 2 right away.
If you, by the time this comes out, hopefully everyone has gotten the spreadsheet that we made to kind of get this.
I'm like promoting it. I'm like team 1.
Here. Yes.
Team 2.
So that's come out at this point. Hopefully by the time this airs, because it's all done. So I'll get it out to everybody. But that's the kind of thing where you can play around and put the numbers in. And that, speaking of, if you haven't heard about that, it's a simple little spreadsheet we use to kind of try to create your teams and try these different strategies on it. So if you're interested, throw a comment and we'll get that over to you. It's also going to be in the notes of previous episodes. So take a look at that. But that's how you help try to go do mocks with those kind of players. So I think you're right. That's zero. It's like a zero RB type strategy is kind of the way to go for 2023. I would modify, not go full zero RB because I'd want a Chubb or Pollard as my number one. I think I'd want that. And that makes it so. There's the difference.
Yeah, I would almost call it like the value RB
strategy. I still want the quarterback. Maybe not. Maybe it's not the top three, but it's a good quarterback.
Sure.
Then I'm spending a little more, and I still would like a top receiver. And I want everything. I want it all.
Yeah, I want it all.
I got to put it on the spreadsheet and see if it works.
Well, you do need that. You do need top wide receivers.
Instead of like, okay, if you look at numbers right now based on current numbers, and we said Stevenson, we said Walker, we said Sanders originally. That's like my ideal. That would be $53, $54-ish between that. So if you went for like a Chubb for 38, you only have like 16 more. Man, so you'd have to go. You'd get Chubb. Let's say you get Chubb and Walker instead of having Stevenson, Walker, and what the heck was his name? Sanders.
Yeah.
So you get the top guy in one, or you get all three. Man, that's actually interesting.
Okay, so something like that, you would have much more depth if you went for the three guys. But if you went for Chubb and then
you got to go lower, and you're getting the cheaper guys.
I don't necessarily. Okay, once again, if we start going that route though. Because we go out and we get Chubb, and we know that he's just a bona fide top 5 guy. He's going to get all the work. We like him, blah, 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 blah. But if Madison really doesn't get any love, and you can go after like him and say Dobbins at the end of the draft, which one would you rather have? And I'm not going to lie, I kind of would go for that one. And even more so, I think maybe I have too much confidence right now that... I think I would need more than 3 of the. I'd probably need more than 3 of them.
I think I'm really.
If I was going like Madison, Dobbins right away and skipping.
I think
over
this year I'm so confident in Chubb and Pollard. Yeah. Like those two, that level, those players, that I want one of those two because they're bottom of the top 10.
And you're talking about, and that is where the drop off currently is, right? Like outside of technically, Chubb is supposed to be about $39.
But after Pollard, it really drops, I think, because even maybe not in price, but in my mind, from Pollard to ETN.
You're talking about ETN and then mix in Breece Hall. You're talking about injuries and situation.
So, and even out of that top 9, Chubb and Pollard near the end is what I want. Josh Jacobs, I don't want. I don't want him as my number one. I don't feel comfortable with that, and I don't know what his contract situation is. And I don't even, I don't want to get into Saquon and Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor money. I like, they're all fine, but I don't feel enough confidence in either of them. I like Bijan Robinson a lot. I was gonna say, but he's at like $50 now.
Okay, could you make, because you're so into Bijan right now? And we just had the episode, check it out, about how well rookie running backs.
I think he's really, really good. But
could you make a hero RB work with him?
That's the only one I would do it with. And he's a little bit cheaper, not a lot cheaper anymore, but a little cheaper. A little bit. He would be the one I would do it with if you're going to go that route, because that's the difference though. In like, if you go Bijan instead of like Nick Chubb, I'm just as confident in Nick Chubb. I think he's the guy, but that's like $11 difference, where that's Miles Sanders essentially. Yeah. Like I want Chubb and Sanders than just Bijan.
Okay, think about this too though. You can either go Nick Chubb.
Or,
and once again, we're playing with the numbers a little bit. Assume Nick Chubb goes a little bit over what his price is currently. Or you get both, and depending if you like him or not, Aaron Jones in a situation where he probably will get a lot of carries with Jordan Love as quarterback and Ramondre Stevenson, and all of a sudden you have your 2 starters taken care of, and that is only about 45, say.
I just don't see myself getting Aaron Jones ever.
Okay, well, take him out and say Jahmyr Gibbs.
Maybe. Oh, man, this is tough.
Yeah, so it comes down to, would you rather have one guaranteed guy, or would you rather split it up? And
I want Chubb, Pollard.
Yeah.
And the Bijan thing, though,
is real.
It's interesting, but that with him, then maybe you don't go get a quarterback. And you get a quarterback, but it's down a little bit, and there's ways to make it work. I think my ideal is you spend a little on a quarterback, you spend a little on a top receiver and get another good receiver, and you go Chubb, Pollard, and then try to get Sanders or Walker.
Yeah, and that's much more of a
we might need to try that out.
Yeah, it's much more of a tier system, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna grab one from each one to make sure the money works, but I'm gonna go for guaranteed,
clearly less
guaranteed.
Nick Chubb, like this is going for 38.9 currently on ESPN drafts, but I think Nick Chubb's going to go closer to 50.
I do too.
That's really
that is why I'm
at,
wondering.
yeah.
Like, okay, if I drop down, I don't think Aaron Jones will jump up in price. I don't think
you're right.
Stevenson.
So if Nick Chubb is truly going 50 instead of 38, 39, then I might like that Stevenson, Walker, Sanders, Gibb, all those kind of guys more. Man, this is tough. But that's where you got to decide. And that's where you got to play around with mocks and see what kind of teams you can build and figure it out, because I think that's where the strategy is. I think that's the right move this year. So it's somewhere in there.
I will. The last one I'll say, and then we'll cut this one off. But and those are all the strategies that most people do, right?
Yeah.
I do think that this is the first year ever that I'm much more in favor of doing the 0 RB.
Yeah.
I think that can work, but I do also think that this year it's much more, instead of sledgehammer and figuring out the numbers, much more precision. I do think that if you figure out 3 guys, you really want that are undervalued, even if you have to pay a multiple of, a 10% tax on top of them, as in like in the draft, they actually go for more. Like, I really think Garrett Wilson is that guy. If you grab him, if you grab, say, Stevenson, if you have 3 guys you love and then build around that, I think that might be the way to go, which is, I don't know what we call that, but it's a weird year, and I think that might be the way to go. But that or 0 RB, version of it.
It's 0 RB, or it's hero RB could be the way if it's like a Bijan.
I like the Bijan call because
I feel really confident in what he's going to do.
But then again, if you believe in Chubb that much too, you can save the money.
But it could be Chubb if he's going more of the 50-ish. But if he gets high, I'll say if Bijan goes higher, Chubb probably goes higher. There's still going to be a gap between them.
I will say this about hero RB: if you're newer to this and you think you might start freaking out in the middle of it if it goes sideways on you, hero RB is a lot easier
to in, like, one of those
because you can throw out Chubb with your first nomination,
lock it in,
find out if he's actually going to go for way too much. If he does, you can wait for Bijan or vice versa.
That's the difference in what Chubb will
move
go
on.
Is where he gets nominated.
Yes.
Don't if you wait too much, you're probably get a better value. If you wait too much and all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, it's Chubb and then ETN, Chubb's going to go way more.
Yeah.
So that's nominations. We'll talk more nominations again. We've talked about it a little bit, but
so hopefully we gave you something that might help, but I'm not sure if we did on that. We don't,
but just talk it out.
Yeah.
I think we gave some guys.
This year is fun because I don't think there's one correct way to do it, but some are harder than others for sure.
All right, that'll do it for today. Talk to you guys next time.